Hey guys, and welcome to the second episode of the TDS Repair series. So today we're gonna service our SRAM DUB bottom bracket, our Sram X01 cranks, and we're gonna do a chain cleaning process. So in the last video I showed you how to service your Crank Brothers mallet DH pedals. So if you also do have those pedals, just click up here. So before starting the video, please subscribe to my channel and like the video. It's nothing for you, but it makes a huge difference for me. I forgot to say that in the last video, but every single tool that will appear on this video is gonna be linked down in the description. So without further ado, let's start servicing our SRAM DUB bottom bracket, our Sram X01 cranks, and clean the chain. So here are the tools you're gonna need for this job. So for this job, you're gonna need your 8mm Allen key, a 2mm Allen key, a T25 Torx wrench, a torque wrench that can go up to 60 Newton meters, a 8mm Allen key compatible socket with the torque wrench. You're also gonna need a special bottom bracket tool. You're gonna need a pick set, a hammer with a rubber or a plastic ending, some grease. It's way better to use a thicker grease for this job than the SRAM butter. Then you're gonna need a thread locker. You'll also need a cleaning solution. I use the isopropyl alcohol. And last, you're gonna need some shop towels. So the first step is to unscrew that little protecting nut on the non-drive side crank. Alright, so now I've changed the direction of my bike. Yep. Let's just start unscrewing that little protective nut. I'm gonna sneeze. Alright. So now find the little bolt on the nut that is securing the whole system. So here we go, I found it. And now I'm just gonna unscrew it, but not totally. You don't want to totally unscrew it. So what you want to do is just unscrew it half the way, because we just want to release the tension on the nut. We don't want to completely disassemble the nut. Not yet, actually. Here we go. The little nut. This is enough. I would say this is enough. Well, as soon as you can turn that nut, it's enough unscrewing that little bolt, because you just want to unscrew the nut a little bit, but just to release the tension. That's all you want to do. We release the tension. Now just unscrew. Here we go. Completely unscrewed. So here we go, completely unscrewed. I can't go any further. So now we're gonna work on the drive side of the bike. So I gotta turn the bike completely again. Oops. Alright, finally. So this part right here you probably seen in the beginning of the video, but now it's the middle of the video when I'm trying to remove the cranks, and I just forgot to release the chain tension. So yeah, just don't forget it, and let's do it right now. Here we go, that's the SRAM X01 system. Pull this derailleur, and then there's a pin, the lock system, or how they call it. So here we go, guys. Now the chain is loose, and we gotta just take that off the crank. Here we go. So yeah, just like this, now there's no chain tension on the crank, and we can continue our work. So the second step is to remove the cranks, and for this job you're gonna need your 8mm Allen key. But this will not work because it's not long enough. The bolt you are gonna try to unscrew is at 58 Newton meters. That's a huge amount of Newton meters, and you can easily snap your Allen key. Even though it's Spark tool, it's really high quality. I don't want to risk it, because once I've done it with this one, and it was bending a lot, so I just stopped it right there. I didn't want to snap it because it was brand new. It costs a whole lot of money. So after this event, I bought a torque wrench, as you can see in my last video. So the torque wrench is really big and it's massive, like the diameter is really big, and that's what you want to use. So here it is, the torque wrench. It's a lot longer than the normal Allen key. The torque wrench is a lot longer and a lot bigger in diameter. So that's the kind of thing you want to use. This is massive. This is made out of steel, I think, but it's really massive, so it won't snap. Take your 8mm Allen key compatible socket thing and snap it on the torque wrench and unscrew that the normal way you would. So the way you unscrew it is anti-clockwise. So now let's unscrew this fat boy. I don't know if I'll be able to unscrew it on the bike stand. I'm just gonna try to unscrew it on the bike stand. I don't know if it's gonna work. So yeah, I'm gonna tell you if it's possible or not. Okay, so it actually is possible to unscrew it on a bike stand, because you gotta take the crank with the right hand and pull the torque wrench with the left hand. So just like this. Now I'm gonna demonstrate it on the other camera. So here we go. Grab your crank with the right hand, grab your torque wrench with the left hand, and push the crank and pull the torque wrench. Here we go. I cracked it loose. So yeah, here we go, guys. I've just broken it loose. Now just unscrew it completely. Yeah, it was quite hard, but on the bike stand it's totally doable because they actually push with one hand and pull with another, so there is balance. Don't worry to do it on a bike stand, it is gonna work. Now I can use my 8mm Allen key to finish the job. Here we go. Now I have my crank with the chainring, like the drive side. So now let's go and get the non-drive side out. So the way you get your non-drive side out is just by using your hammer and tapping on the edge that doesn't have a crank. So where was the drive side crank? So here we go. Now I'm just gonna tap, but be careful. There might be some spacers right here. Right here there is a spacer. Be careful to just take it off. So now what you gotta do is just use your hammer, just like this, and slide your crank out of your bike. Dude, this is light. Bro, I wasn't expecting it to be that light. Okay, this one is probably not as light because the chainring is not made out of carbon, but this, bro, that's really light. So now we've removed our cranks. Now the next step is to remove the bottom bracket. It's the SRAM DUB bottom bracket, threaded bottom bracket. You might have the press fit option, which is way more difficult to get out. Personally, I don't know how to get them out. You might want to go to your bike shop. So what I know is that the kits that allow you to unscrew that sort of press fit bottom bracket are extremely expensive. So if you plan on doing it often, yeah, please invest in that kit. But if not, just go to a bike shop. So yeah, this is a threaded bottom bracket, and I already can see a lot of sand, a lot of dirt stuck in there. So I'm gonna remove that and clean that up. Alright, so for that you're gonna need your torque wrench and this tool. So yeah guys, now we're gonna start with the drive side, and to unscrew it is clockwise. It's quite weird, but this is the way it's done. The same with the pedals. It's clockwise, unusual, but it's how it's done. Go. This is the right side piece. Okay, now it's time to turn the bike. Okay, so here's the non-drive side, and we're gonna unscrew it anti-clockwise. Yeah, so here we go. Now we've disassembled the bottom bracket completely. Now we have access to the entire bottom bracket, like the interior parts. So yeah, now let's clean everything down. The interior of the frame and also all of the parts that are on the table right here. So let's get started. Okay, so now let's take our isopropyl alcohol, let's put some inside of the frame and just wipe it clean. Now let's pass to the cranks and the bottom bracket that were inside. So I want to start here with this piece. That's the crank, the left crank, the non-drive side crank. So yeah, you can remove this thing completely by screwing it in towards the outside. Here we go. Now take your grease, the isopropyl alcohol. I'm also gonna unscrew the chainring, which uses 3 bolts with the T25 torque wrench. Come on, alright. The chainring, really nice and really sick looking chainring. Now here's the bottom bracket. Now I'm gonna clean it up using the same process, the shop towels and the isopropyl alcohol. And yeah, by the way, on those bottom brackets there are some spacers. As you can see, here is one. This one is the right. So on the right, so on the drive side, there is a spacer. Here's how it goes in there. Now you can see all of those 3 bolts, really important. Now let's put some thread lock on the bolts that were actually holding the chainring. Put that inside and screw it in. Okay, so here on the ring it's written 8 to 9 Newton meters. So I'm gonna use my torque wrench and torque it to 8 to 9 Newton meters. Here we go, first one. Okay, so now one of the lights just shut down. That's amazing, that's really nice. But yeah, whatever. Now you gotta put this little ring that we actually took off from the right side, if you remember. Put it on the part where it says right. Then take your middle axle and look, there's also the left and the right sign. The right side onto the right part. We're gonna start with the drive side because you always want to start with the drive side. It's way easier to put the plastic thing in first and then just crush it with the left, the non-drive side. Before doing anything, you gotta put some grease. So on the right part, you gotta put some grease on the threads. Then you'll want to put some grease inside, right there. Now on this middle axle, you also gotta put some on the top, right here, and then slide the right part into the middle axle. Then we gotta screw it in the bottom bracket the non-normal way, so by turning it anti-clockwise. Before doing that, really important, you gotta grease the interior of your bottom bracket. Really important. The threads, really important. You grease the inside threads. Now let's thread it inside by turning it anti-clockwise. Okay, now it's set to 50 Newton meters. It's really important that it's 50 and not more, not less. So yeah, I'm just gonna screw it in anti-clockwise. That was it. It's quite easy with the right set of tools. 15 Newton meters if you don't have a torque wrench. 15 Newton meters, it's not just a little bit, it's a lot of force. I don't think I would have done it without a torque wrench because I always want to make sure that I'm screwing it the right way and that I'm never over tightening it or under tightening it. So now let's pass to the non-drive side. So now we're gonna screw the left part clockwise, but it's really important that before that you put some grease on the threads and on the threads inside. You just gotta thread it inside. Right, perfect. Now we have threaded the bottom bracket inside. So now the next step is to put the cranks. So before doing anything on the cranks, we gotta put some grease. Yeah, it's logic, but we gotta put some grease on that little thread right here, like right here. right here, and then I'm gonna put some grease all the way on this axle right here. The really important stuff is to put it on those little spikes, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, so yeah, just grease everything. It's really important at this step, extremely important. Grease everything properly. A lot of grease on here. The SRAM butter right here, it's a really thin grease, but it's way better to use a thick grease. I'm gonna have to use much more SRAM butter than I would if I had a thicker grease. The threads in there. Now it's not time to put it inside. What we have to do is put this little nub, as we told earlier. This nub just prevents, it just tightens it a little more. So yeah, just slide it inside. Okay, so that's the wrong side. Okay, so that was the wrong side. I'm sorry. Thread it inside. Now and only now is time to put it inside. So now it's time to put it in, but not entirely, because you still have to put more grease. More grease on the inside, right here, on the inside. You gotta put more grease on the inside. Now it's finally time to put it inside. Now just slide it carefully till it goes. Perfect. Guys, we're gonna put the crank with the chainring back on the bike, but as you would guess, we gotta put some grease, like right in those holes, like in there. We're gonna put some grease. You can use some tools to put the grease inside. You can like use a brush, like an old used brush, to put the grease inside. I'm personally gonna use a pick. I'm gonna use this pick. I'm just gonna put some grease on this pick and put it in those holes. Putting it in those holes. Okay, so here we go. I've put some grease inside. So the thing is, you just want to put some grease on the threads that are in there. If you can see, there are some threads. That's where you want to put the grease on. Okay, so then take your grease and put some on the axle that is sticking a little bit through the frame. So this piece right here, you just put some grease as we did, and you put some grease inside right there. So before putting the crank arm in there, you gotta put that little spacer. Put that spacer in there, just like this. Take your Allen key on the torque wrench, and this is gonna be 54 Newton meters. Really important, 54 Newton meters. Now what we're gonna do is place it the opposite way as the other arm is. 100% vertical, and this one 100% vertical, but to the bottom. Screw it in with, well, I'm gonna start with the normal Allen key, and then I'm gonna continue with the torque wrench. Here's the max I can go with a normal Allen key. Let's take our torque wrench and finish the job to 54 Newton meters. So last time what we did is we grabbed the crank arm and we pushed it, but now we're gonna pull it and push the torque wrench. Okay, that's the best position. Like, align it, do what I told you to do. Pull the crank arm and push the torque wrench. Now it's 54 Newton meters. That's perfect. So that was it. That was how you actually service your SRAM DUB bottom bracket and your Sram X01 crank. So now I just gotta clean the chain, which I'm gonna do tomorrow, but in the same video. So yeah, see you tomorrow. Yeah, so there's just one last thing I just forgot. You remember that little bolt at the beginning? Yeah, so now you just gotta screw that in completely, and just screw that with a 2mm Allen key. So that's what I'm gonna show you right now. Here you go. Here you've got your little thing, your nut. Now just screw that in. Now take your 2mm Allen key, and now just screw that little bolt inside. So for the chain cleaning process, you're gonna need a special drivetrain cleaner. I used the Muc-off one, and you're also gonna need a chain cleaning tool. So now to finish this whole video, I gotta clean the chain, and that's what I'm gonna do right now. So now we gotta use this tool, and it's also my first ever time using this, so I'm gonna discover at the same time as you guys. So first of all, what I know is that we gotta fill this up with the degreaser. So now I've got the degreaser, and here you can see a fill line. So now let's just fill this in. Alright, so next step would be to put the chain inside. And how you do that is you unclip this little thing, you unclip it, then you slide and you get that off. So now let's take the tool, place it like this, slide this upper and snap it. So now take your tool with one hand, take your cranks with the other, and turn it anti-clockwise. So now on the tool there's a ping button you gotta push to actually let the liquid, so the cleaner, to go onto the chain. Okay, so now most of the dribbling cleaner is off. So now what you gotta do is disassemble this tool, go and clean it. But before that, you gotta clean the chain by using your shop towels and just spinning around and wiping everything so that it dries well. Unlock that little pin, as we told, then slide it, and here you go. You've got your bath that is so black. Here's what it's supposed to be. So yeah, it's quite a big difference. So now you gotta take your shop towel and wipe the whole chain so it's dry. So now that we've cleaned it up, my guess is that you gotta leave it so it dries out. So thank you guys for staying till the end. If you want to continue repairing your bike and servicing it, click right here. Here's the playlist with all of my TDS repair videos. But other than that, see you guys in the next video with the SRAM X01 derailleur and cassette service.